Kuzampola.
I am Ugen Wangdi.
I am Dishinpem. We are deaf.
Now we will explain about the National Policy for Persons with Disabilities. What is the National Policy for Persons with Disabilities? The National Policy for Persons with Disabilities is the plan, activities, program, and ideas to be followed while working with and for people with disabilities.
Why do we need a national policy for persons with disabilities? The Constitution of Bhutan states that all persons are equal before the law and are entitled to equal and effective protection by the law and shall not be discriminated against on the grounds of race, sex, language, religion, politics, or other status. The government shall provide security in the event of sickness, disability, or inability to manage one's basic life needs. What are the objectives of the National Policy for Persons with Disabilities? The objectives of the policy are to improve the lives of persons with disabilities by mainstreaming disability issues into policies and plans, improving socio-economic conditions, and inculcating positive attitudes towards persons with disabilities. With the national policy for persons with disabilities in place, the government shall ensure the rights and equality of persons with disabilities. Now, I will explain about education. The Ministry of Education shall provide support to children with disabilities in the following areas. The Ministry of Education shall ensure that schools and classrooms will be made accessible for students with disabilities by building ramps, making the toilets accessible, and building handrails in and around school. The government shall ensure that students with disabilities have increased access to early education by making reasonable accommodation in admission policies, inclusive approach, and SEN program. The Ministry of Education shall develop home-based support service or alternative options for students with disabilities and families who are unable to attend school. The Ministry of Education shall conduct awareness and sensitization programs among all teachers, students, families, and the community on working with children with disabilities and meeting their diverse needs, focusing on inclusive values and principles. The Ministry of Education shall ensure all educational institutes develop inclusive policies on child protection to ensure the prevention of violence, abuse, neglect, and discrimination of children or persons with disabilities. Data on children with disabilities to be collected jointly by the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Education to institutionalize and strengthen early identification and intervention programs in all ECCD centers and schools for children with disability from birth or diagnosis. Specific supports for children with different disabilities shall be developed. The Royal Education Council shall develop relevant curriculum statements for students who are unable to access the general curriculum due to disability that focus on functional literacy, numeracy, and relevant life skills. The Ministry of Education shall ensure teaching and learning are designed to meet the individual needs of all students, including adaptations, accommodations, and modification to learning activities, resources, and materials. The Ministry of Education with relevant agencies shall develop accreditation system that recognize the learning and achievements of students with disabilities. Accreditation shall be recognized nationally for employment and further training opportunities. Provision shall be made to offer an appropriate number of scholarships for persons with disabilities on the basis of merit for study outside Bhutan.